Hey guys, this is David, and I'm back to talk about your story. And more specifically, whenever you have a difficult story, and by story I mean life, if you have had a difficult life, how might you turn that negative situation or events or series of events into more of a positive mission or quest? I think that a lot of the times, okay, let me back up. There's three things that can happen. You can have something bad happen to you from someone else's hand, from your own hand, or from just some act of God. And what we can get trapped in is the the people where that the people in which that pain came from. So if you feel like you have been judged by someone else, let's say if you're in childhood, you will inflict that judgment onto yourself. And so in a way, it's handing that judgment in like a almost like a baton relay race for track and field, handing the baton of judgment from that person who more than likely has their own set of pains that they were dealing with or are dealing with, or more accurately, not dealing with. That's why they're acting out the way they are. They're handing this pain onto you. And whenever you're a child, you you grab it. You're a sponge soaking up your environment. So you don't know any better. You're gonna grab the baton, so to speak, and that is what you have to run with. And if that baton is actually like a, we'll skip the baton analogy. Let's say if they pass these fears onto you, you're gonna have a difficult time processing every other fear or unfortunate situation that you find yourself in. Then this kind of unravels itself or shows itself in the four fundamental fears that I've talked about before, which are number one, fear of the unknown; number two, fear of being judged; number three, fear of losing control; and number four, fear of taking the first step. So all of these fears start to show themselves, and if you have this initial foundation of pain or suffering or judgment or just fear in general basing your whole entire life, it kind of that starts to become the theme of your story. So the only way so far, and I'm only speaking I guess from my personal experience, but I'm trying to make this something that you can learn from as well, or maybe get something out of, maybe not learn, but from my experience, I've had to put myself, think of it as this: think of yourself as in a dark tunnel. If you're dealing with some really heavy stuff in life, you're in this dark tunnel and you see, well, at first you're lost, you don't see anything, but eventually if you see someone that you admire, you see some sort of goal or like future future that you want, you see that light and you're like, okay, that's the life that I could have, or maybe that's the life that someone else has, and I want that too. But how do I get there? And that's the thing, is that society today, they'll show you what you could have. Or maybe not they. Social media can show you what life could be like for you. However, it doesn't show you how to get there. So what it ends up being is this very difficult situation where you are lost in this tunnel and it's very dark and there's a lot of just side shoots to this tunnel that can lead you down the wrong direction and get you even more lost and more deep into this mess. And what you have to do, from my experience, what you have to do is you have to dive deep into why you are in that tunnel to begin with. And if you can really process your fears, really tackle it down, tackle the events down to a fear of the unknown, fear of being judged, and just really intently think about why that fear is so impactful. And think about it, and think about it, and think about it over and over again. But try not to get emotionally unstable thinking about it. You have to maintain an objective goal of you want to get better. You want to, and you will not stop. No matter how long this dark tunnel that's your life is, no matter how many unfortunate things happen to you, whatever life throws your way, you're going to keep going. And that's the important part. Even if, like, not to get all nihilistic, but even worst case scenario, if you never made it to the other end of the tunnel or to the light, at least you can tell yourself at the end or whenever it's your time that you tried, that you did not give up, that you did not quit. And there's respect and honor in that, and that's something that you can live with. That's something that you can be at peace with yourself with. Life is always worth living, but sometimes if we go through this tunnel without knowing who we are or why we're here, we can end up more and more lost in this catacomb of life. And one way that I've found to kind of control or take over or conquer the things that have happened to me in my life, and perhaps the things that have happened to you in your life, is that you can begin a mission to take what you've experienced, find some sort of lesson that can be learned from it, and then just communicate that to people. Communicate the lesson. See, nobody, at the end of the day, nobody gives a shit what you've been through. And because and it makes sense, we've all been through our own things, and you shouldn't feel responsible to hold on to everyone else's, pain and suffering. You've got your own to deal with. It's totally understandable. However, we can connect with each other on a deeper level if we can take the things that have happened to us, the negative things, and turn them into positive things. And you turn them into positive things from learning from it. That's the positive thing. If nothing else, you can learn something from it. And you can almost always learn something from it, from whatever bad thing happens to you. And even if it's just that, shit happens in life. Stuff happens. That's something you can learn. That's something you can tell someone and try to tell someone. It could even be your son, daughter, or relative, friends, or whoever, random strangers, just trying to show them that suffering is not the end-all be-all of their life. That they can take their negative situation and be stronger than it. And I think you can find meaning in that. I think you can find meaning in the hunt to conquer that fear, that situation, that event, that horrible person that did something horrible to you in your life. And if you can think about that thing, make it just almost like you want to make it like a ball you can hold in your hand and look at it. Like, you're not going to get sad when you're holding a ball. You can look at it, you can understand it, you can say, okay, it's round, maybe it has some imperfections here and there, and if I throw this ball, it, will bounce off the wall or whatever. And essentially, what you got to do is say, hey, this ball that I'm holding, it doesn't really have any use to me right now. But maybe I can use this ball, or whatever it is, and make some use out of it. Because even if it's the most horrible thing that's happened to you in your life, you can always glean something from it. That's better than nothing. And through enough of these attempts and trials and errors and eventually successes, you can begin to really find yourself. And it's almost like this, your identity starts to become the action of conquering, the act of which you are being strong. That is your identity. And that's something, that kind of identity is earned over the course of years. And again, I'm not saying I'm perfect or anything, not by a long shot. I'm not trying to say that I'm 100% right. All this is just me talking. Just me talking about what I've experienced and trying to, do what I'm talking about. So, hopefully you guys kind of got something from that. Don't be afraid to tell your story. But first, before you tell your story, make sure that you have learned something from it. That's whenever people can truly understand you. And that's whenever they can respect you. Because if you've only suffered, but you haven't learned anything, you're not living life. There's always going to be suffering. And some people have more suffering than other people. But you gotta learn. You gotta learn. If you don't learn, it's very risky, especially if you've been through a lot, because you can end up lost in that tunnel, not knowing who you are with the lack of identity and without any sort of purpose. And that is really scary. That is so scary. That is depressing, and that's what can lead to suicide or depression and suicide, more so than any sort of death that you've experienced in your life or any sort of traumatic experience. The thing that I've always come back to is that lack of identity and lack of purpose is what will drag you down to the ground. You can be stronger than anything that's happened to you. Well, most anything, obviously there's exceptions and stuff, but you can be stronger than most bad things that can happen to you in life. Like, I want to say all of them, but I know that there's some things that are like, obviously, like if you're killed, like you can't come back from that, obviously. But you are strong enough if you believe you are. And if your identity becomes that you are always not stopping, you continue on and you are strong, and that is you, someone who continues on. That's all you need. Sometimes that's all you need. And you'll feel like you won $1 million by the end of it, because you're going to be like, hey, you know what, no matter what I went through, I got through it, or I always had the mindset that I would get through it. And that's freedom. It's enlightening. It takes the stress of everything off for a little bit. Anyways, I'm going to end it at that. Thanks for watching.